It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
Welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Been focusing on Republicans doing this little pivot thing it's coming. Trust me, the pivot is coming. They're trying to cast themselves as the workers' party. I don't know if you've been paying attention to this, but they've really been trying to make that, take that family values thing that they don't really buy into, and moving it towards, the family party, the parents' party. And that's one that I've heard popped around a couple of times. They're now the parents' party. And it's like all the things that the right has mastered over the years. They're the pro-family party, so you have to be anti. They're the pro-life people, so you have to be against life. Go down the list. What they do masterfully, like all their arguments. It's either black or white, right or wrong, good or bad, especially with them being white, right, and good. Life's not that simple, but it's what we're seeing. And what's happening is they're trying to paint this Leave It to Beaver-esque image of the future. With interesting, less corporate dominance, less corporate control, and a little bit less fear of socialism. No, they're not going to call it socialism. We'll come up with some cute little name like workfare or faith-based initiatives. We'll find something. And the reason I bring this up is today over at the New York Times, a conservative think tank, Ethics and Public Policy Center, guy wrote an op-ed. And the op-ed does a nice job of kind of spinning. Doing a little spin toward the parents' party, the family values, working class party of, parents just want, they want good things for their kids. Now understand, I've been saying for years, we all want the same stuff. We all want good schools for our children. We all want safe neighborhoods. We all want good jobs. We all want health care, education. You go down the list. I think everyone, once you take off the red hat and the blue hat, everyone wants the same thing. Now they're trying to stake their flag in the ground, and understand a think tank's been working on how to spin this. And what they're coming out with is, the current Republican Party's good at the culture war stuff, but they don't offer any policy solutions. And this is something that I've been saying for years. Republicans hate working people. Look at their policies. They've got nothing. There's no policy aims. This, my friends, the beginning of getting the Republican Party to come up with policies that they can then take, and shame on Democrats for not having already done this. But they're going, look, we're going to reach out to parents because, those evil Democrats, the woke, because we're going to hear a lot of woke stuff. They want your children inundated with all of this extreme stuff. And this is one of those moments where the left, they do this to themselves. Democrats do this to themselves. Because the drag show thing is a perfect example. Perfect example. When the Republicans choose to attack drag queens, they don't really care about drag queens. What they care about is the divisive issue. What they want is Democrats and the left to lose their minds and wrap themselves in the rainbow flag and march with all of the pageantry of drag queens and all of the displays of support for the trans community and all this stuff, so that they can go to people who don't care, going, pick a side, black or white, right or wrong, good or bad. And the Democrats and the left do this all the time. They do it to themselves. It comes up, and the first thing they do is they wrap themselves in that rainbow flag, and they go, instead of wrapping themselves in the American flag and saying, look, the reality is I may not agree or like what they do, but I support their right to do it. It's about free expression. It's about life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. We don't do this well, and this is what Republicans have done masterfully, because they know they're going to be able to go to middle America. They're going to be able to go to that uneducated white working class and go, look, pick a side. Pick a side. You got this over here wrapped in the rainbow flag. You don't want your children doing this. Or us, the good family values people. Now, they don't like either side. They don't, because they know over here the good family values people are crazy and have horrible policies or no policies. But when they give you that binary choice, well, they're hoping that people are going to steer in their direction. Now, you've got this guy going, hey, here's some ways that we move policy to entice these people, because we got them running from the rainbow flag, got them coming. We got to keep them with policy. And he's saying, look, there are 5 ways that we should be moving pro-family, parent party kind of values. One of them, improving the child tax credit. A little socialism, a little sweetening of the pot to encourage people to have children, because you're going to make people have children. And one of the biggest attacks that I have on the right is, okay, you're pro-birth. What do you do when those kids are born? Well, the think tank here is now coming out and saying, look, little money in the pocket, as long as you have a job. Now, again, if you've listened to this show for a while, you know that I'm against welfare programs. Everything should be a jobs program. Everything should be a jobs program. There should be no handouts. The old adage of you want to eat, you got to work. Because this way you can't divide people. And what I know is the public sector can't, or more likely won't create enough jobs for everyone. The public sector has to. So everyone has to work. And then earned income tax credit can subsidize to make people have a better life so that they can support their kids and give them opportunities and move forward. And you create this culture of moving forward and up instead of holding down and tearing back. Because it's interesting. One of the things that they talk about in their 5 master points is promoting strong families, involving fatherhood. And as a kid growing up in the projects back in the 70s, I do remember it was government policy that tore the families apart. It was conservative policies that did that said, hey, if you're on ADC, aid to dependent children, like my mother and I, the food stamps of that era, if you're on this, no man in the house. So they were literally breaking up homes. And they used to have inspectors come and check. They used to come and knock on the door and go, well, let's take a look around. And there better not be a sign of a man there. That policy began breaking up families. Again, good God-fearing Christians, they're the ones who did this because we don't want lazy people doing nothing. He talks about protecting kids online, like they're the only ones who want to protect our children. I don't want pornography available for my kids. I don't want the poison of a lot of the social media available at my children's fingertips. I would be in favor of that. And they understand this. They've done the polling. But here again, comes back to, they keep saying it's about parental rights, but we know what that means. That means culture wars. That means CTE. That means drag shows. That means school choice. At the end of it, it's about destroying public education and putting, Education Incorporated in charge of your children's future. And it's also about a little bit of socialism. Going to change the name a little bit, but a little bit of socialism. So you got the tax credits. You got the protecting kids online from predators, and all on board. And I'm on board with the tax credits as well. Supporting new parents. And I don't know what that really means. In my view, supporting new parents could mean, healthcare, making sure that every mother has access to prenatal care all the way through delivery, and then child care or health care for the kid and the mother through 18, maternity leave, child care. There's a lot that goes in. Good education systems, opportunities for college. There's a lot of support for parents. They don't really go into that. Just like involving fatherhood. I'm not quite sure what that means either. I assume it's a lot of grievance. And then they go into the tax thing, because every conservative policy always has to come down to a tax thing. More tax cuts, more giveaways, and presumably, they don't really go into who, but grievance. There's a marriage penalty, and I'm going, I don't remember this it's not that big of a deal. But it's about starving government. So again, there's a lot of the conservative ideology in there, but cloaked in we're pro-family values. Now, this guy goes into talking about the difference between high school educated, college educated, and really points a focus on the Democratic base of college educated Democrats, because they're the ones who are opposed to a lot of this stuff. So the argument he's making is going, look, we can take out that base and we can move voters in our direction by doing what Democrats have been wanting to do for a while, which is ensure that there is a way for families to be able to support themselves. Now, me, as a union guy, comes back to, if we had stronger unions, if we had the ability to have a single wage earner, to be able to put food on the table, a roof over their heads, opportunities for the future, save for future, whatever, retirement, college, and have one person stay home and raise the children, good family value stuff. If we had the true Leave It to Beaver-esque kind of situation, that fortunately, thanks to my union job, my wife and I are able to give our children, that would be better for society as well. But you're never going to hear the Republicans talk about that. Everything else is some kind of a gimmick. For instance, one of the things that they talk about, paid leave, maternity leave, Romney's Family Security Act, which means that you're going to have to borrow from your Social Security if you take maternity leave. They don't tell you that, because at the end of the day, it's about cheap labor. At the end of the day, it's about getting those people into jobs and keeping people desperate. Now, in his piece, he does hit the right point. He says the Biden administration, and I would say Democrats as a whole, have failed to push through their grand vision for progressive family policy, and has left room for others to act. Because at the end of the day, all people really want, they don't want to know about the red hat or the blue hat. They want to know, are you going to make my life better? And this is where, again, Democrats have dropped the ball. And I'll give you an example. Tucker Carlson was being interviewed by Ben Shapiro. And Shapiro said, the future are automated trucks. These automated trucks are coming. What do you think of automated trucks? Are you in favor of this? And he's like, absolutely not. It's a horrible idea. It should never be allowed to happen. These jobs are, high school educated men take these jobs, millions of them. It is the number one job for high school educated men in this country. It would break the social compact. He actually said that. And you go, wow, oh my God, something that Tucker Carlson and I actually agree on. Now, understand, I've said from the beginning on this issue that I think there should be a technology tax, that we should be making the drivers who are going to lose these jobs whole for the rest of their lives and make it much more expensive to move towards these automated jobs, so that the winners don't win immediately and we have time to adjust, that the working class doesn't take it on the chin. Because I know there's no stopping technology. And Tucker Carlson knows this too. The reality is this AI stuff is an overloaded truck going downhill in neutral with no driver. You are not stopping it. He knows it. I know it. The difference is he's going, no, I would never allow it. And people are going to go, yeah, he cares about us. He doesn't care about working people. He understands messaging. I'm trying to find a solution. I'm trying to make sure that working people are okay, that they don't take it on the chin again. And this is the difference between what the fake news on the right does and actually getting things done. And Democrats have to figure this out. The same person who sent me the clip of Tucker and Shapiro, asked me why Governor Tom Wolf signed the automation bill here in Pennsylvania. I still don't have an answer for him. Because the reality is this, again, is another moment where Democrats are going to end up taking it on the chin. And Republicans are going to go, see, we were against it. When ultimately, they aren't. Because they know, like everybody else, you're not stopping this monster. Now, if we all came together, red hat, blue hat, and said we want it to stop, we might have a shot. We might have a shot at any change. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break. Right back.
The most mistreated group of people in the United States today are white males.
I still don't know what a Venn diagram is. I just don't know.
We're bringing thousands of bottles of water, Trump water, actually, most of it.
What makes you a better president than the former president? What's your answer?
So I know you've heard this, but I don't kick sideways, I kick forward.
Clearly, you think you're a better option than he is, or you wouldn't have gotten into the race. So where do you two differ?
I don't focus on President Trump.
Boot edge. You know what you call him? Boot edge.
He's the guy that had no business running for president, but they let him do that because he was gay and they check off a box. And then he didn't win, he's the gay guy, so we got to give him something. Let's make him transportation secretary.
Well, it turns out leprechauns exist not just on cereal boxes. There are a lot of people who believe they have seen a leprechaun, or as they're known in some countries as an elf.
We have derailment after train derailment with environmental disasters. No one asking if it's maybe the Russians retaliating after the article came out about us possibly attacking the Nord Stream 2 pipeline.
The idea that Americans and that American children would look to the sky and see a Chinese spy balloon looking back at them.
I encourage your audience to take some time and play with ChatGPT, which should really be called ChatDNC.
And so they would have us all live in caves eating crickets because of a
gentleman's time has expired.
0.01%, and take away our stoves right on top of that right now.
The Democrats and the left want businesses to have to hire based on skin color, ethnicity, or even what gender they identify.
If you haven't seen the tape of him ordering at McDonald's in East Palestine, treat yourself.
So I know this menu better than you do, okay? I probably know it better than anybody in here.
Well, I respect the Speaker's commitment to take Social Security and Medicare off the table for the debt ceiling negotiations. We've got to put them on the table in the long term.
They have a hat. Trump was right about everything. And when you think about it, I was.
Ethnicity.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So I was reminded that 10 years ago today, I was marching in the streets with J-1 visa workers from Asia. Yeah, figure that one out. Evidently, what had happened is you got a bunch of workers that came to this country on J-1 visas, which are meant to be people who come here not to work. A J-1 visa is not a work visa, but it's one that the people come to get the American experience. And what you had these Asian workers coming for the American experience, working at a McDonald's locally, who were living 8 to 10 in the basement of some shack around the corner and being abused. I mean, working 20-hour shifts, not being paid overtime, all kinds of stuff. And we went and protested the treatment of these workers. And I said at the time, I go, what these workers did is, and the argument I would make if I were the McDonald's owner, is that I'm giving them the ultimate cultural experience of a low-waged worker in America. Exploitable, desperate, abusable. And, it obviously did not go well. But at the time, they ended up firing them. There was a whole bunch of ugliness that went around this. And eventually there was some push to get the J1 stuff stopped. But we're moving in another direction, because every time corporate America needs some cheap labor, they figure out a way around the rules. So what are they doing now? You look at that child labor bill in Iowa. Ohio has just passed out of a Senate committee, a child labor bill with bipartisan support, weakening child labor laws. You look at Sarah Huckabee Sanders in Arkansas. They're about to make a system where if you're 9 years old, you don't even need to get a work permit. Let that sink in for a minute. We're moving in a direction where, well, if you're desperate enough, hungry enough to work in poverty conditions for desperation wages, hey, it's your freedom. It's your choice. Scary stuff. Let's go to the phones. Got Alice on one. Alice, how are you?
I'm doing better. How about you?
I won't complain. What's on your mind?
Okay, so what I wanted to say is, for some odd reason, it seems that the Republican Party and Putin and his gang seem to be going hand in hand and passing similar laws. And it's the same old thing, just a different century.
Yeah.
You know, this is the same thing that Germany did. If you look, and it all goes back to you forcing their so-called religious values on the rest of us. It's just the same old playbook over and over. And they come off with wonderful ways of explaining it. Then everybody goes, oh, great, that sounds wonderful, until it doesn't once it's passed.
Yeah.
So, you know, the very people that need to learn from history, who are little snowflakes and cry, oh, my God, it hurt our feelings, are the ones that need to learn about history. But you have a good evening, Rick.
Thanks, Alice. Appreciate the thoughts. No, I mean, you think of their language. It is focus group tested, think tank approved, because they spend a lot of time and energy on messaging. They understand the power of radio and TV and messaging and social media. They understand. They understand fear. And that's where they live. They live in scaring the you-know-what out of people because, hey, those drag queens are coming for you. But you stop and you think about over the last 40 years, it's been conservative ideology and conservative policies that have caused the breakdown of the family, that have caused the standard of living in this country to stagnate and to actually go backwards. It's their policies that harm the working class, and yet, because of these culture issues, again, we're blinded. Thomas Frank's, what's the matter with Kansas? They found, people, felt helpless in dealing with the economic stuff, but the stuff that they could control, that's what they grabbed onto. And this is the same thing. This is the argument that these folks have been making. And what's frustrating and angering is the policy mechanisms that are happening. And I say, look, Republicans hate working people. Look at what they do. And I look at this child labor push. Multiple states simultaneously running child labor bills to break down the number of hours kids can work, to break down how late they can work, to break down the kinds of jobs they can do. Why? Because corporate America needs cheap labor. And it's really quite remarkable when the solution is not putting 9-year-olds on the kill floor of a meatpacking plant, but having a sane, rational immigration policy. Having a policy that does reward work. Because the sad reality, a lot of the jobs that are going unfilled are the jobs that don't pay anything, that people can't live on. So what I hear from my Republican friends quite often is we need to do away with the social safety net. We need to crush that so that people are desperate enough and hungry enough that they're going to take that poverty job, even if it's only $1 an hour. Because as Ron Paul said, we're against the minimum wage. Might as well be $1 an hour. The question is when will we as working people again wake up to what's happening right in front of our very eyes? There is an assault on the 20th century. There is an assault on what our grandparents' generation built. And it's not the drag shows and the CTE and the rainbow flag. It's about money. And to steal Rupert Murdoch's line, it's not about red or blue. It's about green. And they are robbing us blind. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. If you miss any portion of the program, make sure you grab the podcast. Wherever you find it yours, you'll find ours.
The old factory towns in America's heartland have been taking a beating. Thing is, though, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. After years of politicians talking about it, they finally passed a big new infrastructure package to rebuild roads and bridges, fix drinking water systems, and make the energy grid more secure. We're finally turning things around after 40 years of screwing over working people. But will we keep moving in the right direction? That's our choice as Americans.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
Before we close the program, we want to take a moment to thank our viewers and to share a little bit about why we do what we do. At The Rick Smith Show, we believe that media today is almost entirely controlled by corporate greed. So we have now 24-hour news channels. But instead of 24 hours of news, what we get is 1 hour repeated 24 times, and with tons of commercials creating obscene amounts of profits. Information once presented as a public service has now become a private commodity. So when lies make money, lies are what we get. We get a corporate-controlled rage machine feeding us anger and hate, trying to convince us that our problems are right, left, or red, blue, when they are and always have been up, down, the wealthiest 1% versus the rest of us. Our goal is to be an alternative to that machine, not as a news show with a fancy journalist out front, but as a talk show run by a union truck driver and a team of working-class heroes just like you. Everything we do, both what we get right and what we get wrong, is dedicated to advancing the interests of America's working families. No corporate ad buys, no think tanks, no focus groups, no talking points. We are media by working people, for working people. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.